Imagine you're a billionaire. Why would you spend a fortune to buy a sports team that only loses money? The answer is simple: to pay way less in taxes. It's a trick, but one that follows the rules. Think of the main trick like a giant discount coupon you get when you buy the team. When the billionaire buys the team for, let's say, $2 billion, the law lets them treat that amount as a business expense. They can deduct a piece of those $2 billion from their income taxes every year for 15 years. This creates a paper loss. The team isn't really losing all that money, but to the IRS, it's as if it were. Now, here comes the magic. The billionaire takes the real profit they made from their other companies, like a factory, and uses the team's paper loss to cancel out that profit. In the final calculation, the real profit disappears, and the tax to be paid is close to zero. On top of that, they can have their own factory sponsor their own team. The money just moves from one pocket to another, and also put the team under a different company's name to make it harder to track. In the end, they pay almost nothing in taxes and are still seen as a hero for saving the local team. It's a masterstroke. Want to discover more about how the financial system really works? Subscribe and like to The Tax Loophole.
Why do billionaires buy million-dollar watches they don't even wear? This watch here, for example, was sold for $55 million and just sits locked in an underground vault. Actually, these watches weren't made to tell time, therefore tax evasion. But how so? Let's say this year the IRS sends me an $8 million tax bill. What do? I go out and buy a random watch for about $1 million and I store it in a free port. Oh, here you go with that free port business again. Yes, a free port is basically an international warehouse that allows you to store luxury items without following any tax regulations in the country where you are. And after storing the $1 million watch there, I hire an independent appraiser who, by chance, is my friend. He says that watch is now worth $8 million. Remember, luxury watches are considered movable assets, so their value is quite subjective. But how will that help me evade taxes? This is where it gets really interesting. I take that watch valued at $8 million and donate it to a museum or a cultural institution. And when you make that donation, the IRS will give me a discount on my taxes for the exact value of that watch, which in this case is $8 million, which means I won't have to pay that $8 million bill they sent me initially. Now I understand. That's why these watches are so expensive. But of course, who in their right mind would pay $55 million for a watch unless the real benefit is not paying taxes?
Ever wondered why we, the billionaires, buy seemingly simple paintings for millions of dollars? This painting here, for instance, sold for $80 million, and it looks like, well, crap. But for us, this is far more than just art. On average, we save millions of dollars in taxes with every single painting we buy. What? How does this happen? It's actually quite and simple. Let's say this year the IRS sends me a $100 million tax bill. What I'll do is go out and buy one of these crap paintings for about $80 million. Then I'll store the painting in a free port. What exactly is a free port? It's basically a special warehouse where you can keep your artworks without being subject to any tax regulations in the country where it's stored. So, after storing my $80 million painting in a free port, I go ahead and put it up for auction. The best part about auctions is that they can generate bids far higher than your painting is truly worth. Is there a limit? On average, your painting can be valued at about 40% more than the price you paid. What? Yes, this means my $80 million painting will now be valued at about $112 million. But when you sell, won't you have to pay tax on the sale? Actually, I won't even sell the painting to begin with. Instead, I'll donate this painting to a museum. And when I make that $112 million donation, the IRS gives me a tax deduction for that $112 million, which means I won't have to pay that initial tax bill they sent me. So that's why these paintings are so expensive? Yes, I mean, who in their right mind would pay $80 million for that? Intrigued by how the system truly works? Subscribe to The Tax Loophole.
Elon, why do billionaires buy wine bottles worth millions that they never drink? This one here sold for over $500,000 and nobody even sips the damn thing. Sounds insane, right? Actually, these bottles aren't for drinking. They're for tax evasion. Each rare vintage can slash millions off our tax bills. What? How does that work? Imagine the IRS sends me $1 million notice. I go out and buy a $500,000 bottle. And what do? I keep it in a free port, a secure international warehouse where tax rules don't apply. There, the wine isn't taxed as a beverage, but treated like art or collectibles. Then what? You put it up for auction. And the best part about auctions is they can generate bids even higher than the bottle is truly worth. On average, your wine bottle can be valued 100% more than what you paid. So a $500,000 bottle becomes a $1 million asset. But won't you owe tax when you sell? I don't sell. I donate it to a charity auction instead. When you donate, what happens? The IRS grants me a deduction equal to the bottle's appraised auction value, $1 million. That wipes out my original $1 million tax bill. Now I get it. So that's why bottles go for absurd sums? Precisely. Who in their right mind pays $500,000 for something they'll never uncork?
Hey, Jeff Bezos, you make $8 million an hour, but you pay $0 in taxes. What's up with that? Well, actually, I don't have any money. What? Okay, look, the $8 million an hour you're talking about isn't my income. It's just a growth in the value of the Amazon shares I own. Yes, but you still made a profit, which means you have to pay taxes on that, right? As long as I don't sell those shares, I don't have to pay anything. Well, eventually you'll have to sell some shares. Otherwise, how will you have money to pay your bills? Whenever I need money, I go to the bank and take out a large loan, putting my shares up as collateral. And since loans are tax-free, I don't have to pay anything. Okay, but how will you pay off that loan then? I take out another, even bigger loan to pay for the previous one. And how will you pay for this new, even bigger loan? I take out another, even bigger loan and do the same thing. Wait a minute, you're just going to keep doing that until when? Until I die. So you'll never pay taxes your entire life? How do banks allow this if they know you'll just keep taking out loans? Well, the banks keep receiving interest on these loans, and I save billions in taxes. So it's a win-win situation. And how does the government allow this? If you think about it, a loan isn't profit. On the contrary, it's a liability. And you're the ones who wrote the tax laws, not me.
Hey Elon Musk, you have over $400 billion, yet you still borrow money? Like the $13 billion to buy Twitter, what's the logic there?
The truth is, I don't have money. Those $400 billion are just the value of the shares in my companies.
But if you have all that value, why not just use it to buy things directly? Wouldn't that be better than paying interest on loans?
Actually, no. If I sell my shares to get money, I'll be forced to pay taxes on that profit. And frankly, we hate paying taxes. However, if I take out a loan from a bank, I don't have to pay any tax on the borrowed amount.
But if you're never going to sell your shares, how will you ever pay off that huge loan?
I simply take out another even larger loan to pay off the previous one. And since my shares continue to appreciate in value, the cycle just keeps going.
What? And what bank would be stupid enough to lend you money knowing you'll just keep taking out loans to pay it off?
All of them. In fact, banks fight amongst themselves to lend me money. You know why? I use my own shares as collateral. If by any chance I can't pay, the bank can take my shares. And every bank wants that.
So wait, you don't have physical money, you have shares, but you can't sell them to avoid tax, but you can use those shares as collateral to get tax-free loans and effectively never pay taxes throughout your entire life?
Exactly. If there's one thing we billionaires hate doing, it's paying taxes.